I've always wanted to try this. I'm a very random person, so I'm gonna do something random. I'm going to, from top to bottom, I haven't watched Mulan in years, but it's my favorite Disney movie of all time. I've always wanted to try this. I just thought this a few years back. I'm going to say all I can remember of the movie from top to bottom. Just so you know, I've never done anything like this before. I'm a huge Mulan fan. I don't know what else to talk about. You might think I'm weird, you might think I'm random, but who cares? Because I am weird and random, and I'm gonna try from top to bottom to say every event. I don't know. I'm a random person. Let's give it a. You know what? I'm very shy right now, but who cares? I'm sorry, I keep saying who cares because I'm trying to reassure myself. Alright, let's give it a go. I don't know how I remember all of this. Alright. I'm nervous. Okay. Alright, this is weird of me, but I'm a weird person. So, alright. Let me try to remember. I haven't watched it in years. Okay. There's the scene where the movie begins, obviously, and then it's a bunch of watchtowers. And you guys could watch the movie along to this to see how accurate I am. I haven't watched this movie in years. Okay. There's a scene, and there's lots of watchtowers, and the guy, he is watching over. Then they hear something, I assume. I haven't seen this movie in years. And then after they hear something, he starts lighting all the beacons or whatever. And then there's a sabotage. There's a grappling hook that goes onto the wall. And the Huns start invading, and there's Shan Yu. And Shan Yu has the falcon on his shoulder. And when he has the falcon on his shoulder, he's standing in front of the guy after he takes his hood off. And then the guy is like shocked, but then Shan Yu is getting a little closer, so he decides to alert everybody regardless, and then he puts the torch down into the pit, whatever it is, the watchtower, and then he says, "Now all of China knows you're here." And then Shan Yu takes a stick, puts it in the fire, and then he lifts it, I guess. And then he says, "Perfect." All right, and then next, we cut to the scene where we show the Emperor's palace, and Shang's father, he approaches, and he tells the Emperor that there has been an invasion, and I think Shifu, the Emperor's assistant, I forgot what you call it, he's right next to him. He says, Shang's father says that there's been an invasion. And then Shifu looks shocked, and then after that, Shang's father says, "It's Shan Yu." And then the Emperor, he looks shocked, but he doesn't look too surprised. But he is a little surprised, but he looks mostly angry. And after that, he approaches Shang's father, trying to reassure him, I guess, and telling him to get his best troops on it. And then Shifu was saying that he's scared about the war or something. He's like, "There can't be war," I forgot. And yeah, he said they're just gonna get their best troops on it. And the Emperor approaches Shang's father and says, like, even a single grain of rice can tip the scale, I think. Alright, next scene. I'm doing all this from memory. I don't know how I'm doing this. It's like a recording. Alright, so next scene, we finally cut to our heroine, Mulan. Alright, and then Mulan, she is cheating. She's getting ready for her matchmaking appointment, and she's cheating. She's writing the characters on her arm, and she's saying elegant, poised, punctual. She's trying to cheat, which you shouldn't do, guys. And then the rooster goes, cock-a-doodle-doo. And then she says, Aya. And then she's rushing out of her bed and she's saying, little brother. And then she is blowing on her arm to dry the ink that she just wrote. And she's saying, little brother. And then she sees her little dog. When I first saw the movie, I was like, ooh, she has a brother, I didn't know. And then turns out it's her pet dog. And then she says, there you are, the smartest doggy in the world. Come on, little boy, little fella. And then she attaches the bone to him on a string. She ties it around his neck. And she said, you're going to help me with my chores today. And then she sends little brother out. And then he starts feeding all the chickens after she attaches the bag of chicken feed to him. And he's running and the bag rips open for the chickens to eat the feed that's spread on the ground. And after that, they start pecking at it. And then he rushes by and Mulan's horse Khan in the stable. He sees the dog rush by. He's like, can you believe this moron? And after that, I'm trying to remember more. I don't know how my mind is working like this. Okay. I haven't watched this movie in years. Let me see. After the dog rushes by, he keeps rushing past. And then we pan up to see Mulan's father. Man, I forgot his name. And he is praying at the temple of the ancestors. He is asking them for guidance for Mulan to make a good impression at the matchmaker today. And the dog, he runs into the temple. He runs into the temple and the chicken feed is everywhere on the ground, all around. And he circles him with the chicken feed. The chickens come in and they start eating around the praying father. And their father is like, can you believe this? But he keeps it to himself. And he's like, please help her. Because obviously she's not doing a very good job as of right now. All right. And I'm trying to remember. After that scene, which one was it next? I think Mulan is coming outside. I probably skipped a few scenes. So I'll try again. Mulan, she comes outside, and then the father, she bumps into him, and she breaks her teacup, and she said, I brought a spare, and he keeps saying her name over and over, Mulan. And she said, remember the doctor said have a cup of tea in the morning and one at night? And he says, Mulan, if she's ready for the matchmaker. And she was like, don't worry, father, I won't let you down. And she pulls her sleeve down, covering the cheating that she wrote on her arm. Like, I can't believe she did that. Like, how you gonna lie to your father like that? And she said, wish me luck. And he said, hurry. And then he said, I'm going to pray some more. And he goes back to the temple. Now we cut to the next scene. Mulan is rushing into the populated area, should I say? It's not a city, is it? She rushes into the populated area where her mother and grandmother are waiting for her. And they're like, the mom is like, she's late. I prayed to the ancestors for luck. And the grandma's funny. She said, how lucky can they be? They're dead. Oh my goodness, that's a little cryptic. And then she shows that she has a cricket and in the cage attached to her. And she was like, this is your chance to prove yourself. And the cricket is like, prove what? He looks at her in shock. And then she does something shocking. She covers her eyes. And then she walks all the way into the road, completely blinding herself. All the people that are, I forgot what we call it, rickshaw? I don't know. Like, they're pulling the wagons. It's like driving, but, they're pulling the wagons themselves. And she blows into the middle of the street while they're doing this. And they're freaking out right now because she's covered her eyes completely and she's doing this. Walking in the street, completely blind. Everybody's trying to avoid her. Dust clouds everywhere. And then, thank you for the hearts. And then after she crosses the street, she covers her hand and she says, "Yup, this cricket's a lucky one." And the cricket is so terrified he faints. And next, I'm trying to remember what happens next. Mulan arrives on Khan, her beautiful black horse, and she gets off the horse. I don't know how she did that. She got off the horse while it was running. And she said, "I'm here." And then she said, "What?" "But Mama, and the mom's like, "None of your excuses. It's time to clean up." Because her hair is a mess. She has hay in it everywhere. So then the mother rushes Mulan into the bathhouse. And they start singing one of the nicest songs in the movie. I'm not going to sing it because I'm a very shy person. But she is the lady who works there. She said, "This is what you get me to work with. Well, honey, I've seen worse. We're going to turn this sow's ear into a silk purse." And then they're cleaning her up. And the mom is next and helping out. And then she sees the ink on Mulan's arm. She said, "Mulan, what's this?" She said, "Notes, in case I forget something." And then the grandma hands Creaky, the cricket, to the mom. And she says, "Hold this. We're going to need more luck than I thought." And then the next scene, they're getting her hair ready. How did the lyrics go? I'm trying to remember. Hold on. "We'll have you..." No, that's later with the dressing. All right, so anyways, they're fixing her hair and cleaning her hair up, shampooing it. After that, what's next? "We'll have you washed and clean." I'm trying to remember. Yeah, right now, I remember. "Boys, we're glad you've gone to war for you. With good breeding and a good hairdo, you'll bring honor to us all." They got her hair ready. They pinned it up nicely. And then she's going outside with her mother. And there are some old men that are playing chess. Chess, checkers? It's one of the games. They're playing on the side and she stops in the middle and she's watching and then she moves one of the pieces and the old man, the chubbier old man, is happy about it. But like, why are you happy? You didn't do that. All right, so next. After this, they go to get her outfitted with her dress. "We'll have you with good taste." With a tiny waist. Yeah, they finished pinning the dress on her. It looks very tight. Then they say, "You bring honor to us all." After that, what happened after that? They finished putting the dress on her. Man, it's been a long time. Oh, I remember. She went outside and there were these little boys that were playing with the wooden swords or something. And they're talking about how women stay at home and the men go to the war in the song. And after that, the little girl, they confiscated her doll and then Mulan got mad at them and she gave the doll back to the little girl. And the little girl's so happy. She hugged her doll again. That was adorable. All right, now the final scene of that makeup scene is she goes to get her makeup done. She has the powder applied to her face, and then she has the lipstick applied, and the women are still singing over her. Even her mom is joining in. And after they finish applying the makeup, she looks really nice, and she looks shocked at herself, like she doesn't recognize herself. After that, hold on. Is there a way I could change the title of this? I can't change the title of this? Oh well. Let me continue. Okay. After that, what was I going? Yeah, she put the lipstick on her, and then Mulan doesn't recognize herself, and then she twists a piece of her hair and lets it hang down because now there's some semblance of her old self. And then The mom takes out a special heirloom comb and she says, "There, now you're ready." And the grandma says, "Not yet. An apple for serenity, a pendant for balance, beads of jade for beauty. You must proudly show it. Now add a cricket just for luck, and even you can't blow it." And then Mulan says, "Ancestors, hear my plea." What was it? "Ancestors, hear my plea. Help my family to be proud of me," was it? I don't know. "And to not uproot my family tree, keep my father standing tall, because he has a cane. He needs to walk. I assumed he was hurt in the war." And after that, she says, "Scarier than the Undertaker, we must meet our matchmaker, Destiny." Destiny, what was it? "Destiny, guard our girls and our future as it fast unfurls. Please look kindly on these cultured pearls, each a perfect porcelain doll. Scarier than the Undertaker, we are meeting our matchmaker." Yeah. Oh, he said that part. Hold on. Oh. "We are meeting our matchmaker, Destiny, guard our girls and our future as it fast unfurls. Please look kindly on these cultured pearls, each a I don't know. Alright, so the next scene, Mulan, she rushes in because she's late, and she rushes in with the other girls, and they all take out their parasols and shield themselves with it. They put it on, like, whatever. They finish their song, and now the matchmaker came out, and she said, "Fa Mulan," and she said, "Present," and she said, "Speaking without permission." Mulan said, "Oops." And the grandma said, "Who's spitting her bean curd?" Next, Mulan, she enters the matchmaker's house. Is it a house or an office? I don't know. And then she's looking her up and down, and she says, "Too skinny, not good for bearing sons." And what else was it? Recite the final, whatever it's called. And Mulan nods. She had Creaky, who kept hopping around her, and she hid Creaky in her mouth, and the lady said, "Recite the final admonition." Mulan nodded. She takes out her fan and spits out Creaky, and the matchmaker says, "Well." So Mulan says, "Fulfill your duties calmly and respectfully. Reflect before you snack." She messed up her ink, and she said, "Act, this shall bring you honor and glory." And then she puts her fan down and she sighs. The matchmaker is checking her fan, thinking if she's cheating somehow. And she doesn't see any evidence. She's gripping Mulan's arm, and then she says, "This way." And as she lets go of her arm, there's a lot of ink on it, and then she doesn't realize it yet. She walks back to her table, and then she says, "Now pour the tea." What was the rest? Pour the tea. Now pour the tea. "To impress your future in-laws, you must demonstrate a sense of dignity and refine? I don't know." She said, "You must also be poised." And then she sees the teacup, and Creaky is, what do you call? He's relaxing in it, in the teacup. She doesn't realize. There's a lot this matchmaker's not realizing if she qualified. And then Mulan sees her about to drink Creaky, and she's like, "Pardon me." And the matchmaker says, "And silent." And Mulan closes her mouth, and the matchmaker takes a whiff of the tea. She likes it. She doesn't know Creaky's in there. And Mulan leans over the table. She says, "Can I have that back for one moment?" But then they end up spilling the tea because they're struggling over it. And then the tea spills on the matchmaker. And she says, "Oh, you clumsy little." And then she starts hopping around because the cricket is hopping around inside of her dress. And then she actually knocks over her coals that are heated, and then she falls on them and her butt's on fire, around like a madman. because her butt's on fire. And Mulan, being the idiot that she is at that moment, she takes her fan and fans the flames, and then it makes it bigger. And the lady is screaming. The matchmaker is screaming even louder. And there's a lot of panic going on in the house. And outside, the grandma's like, I think it's going rather well, don't you? And then the doors fly open, and the other girls who are sitting there are scared. Because they're like, what's going on? They see the matchmaker with her butt on fire. And she says, put it out, put it out, put it out. And then Mulan, Mulan dumps the whole teapot on her. And then she hands the teapot to the matchmaker, who shockingly takes it. And Mulan covers her face in embarrassment, and Creaky jumps into the cage on Mulan's dress. And she rushes back over to her family, and the matchmaker approaches them saying, you are a disgrace! And she slams the teapot down. She says, you may look like a bride, but you will never bring your family honor. And then she walks away with her makeup running, and she looks like her lip is quivering. I guess she's very upset. I mean, obviously, her butt was on fire. And then Mulan looks down sadly, and she has just a sad expression on her face. I feel bad for the poor thing. She's a klutz, but I love her. Alright, so then she looks up sadly. Now they fade out and fade into the new scene where she's walking back with her horse to the stables. And then her father comes out to greet them. And he has a smile on his face, hoping it went well with the matchmaker. But Mulan, she looks away and pulls her horse to the stable. And the father looks sad because now he realizes it didn't go well after all. Then she walks to the stable. And then she puts her horse away and she sighs and starts singing Reflection. Beautiful song. You guys should listen to it on YouTube or wherever. I'm not singing it because I'm a shy person. I could say the words though, but that would be cringe. Alright, so after she's done with her song, let me skip forward in my mind. After she's done with her song, she's eating dinner with her family. And I hope I'm not boring you guys. She's eating dinner with her family, and then she says to her, no, how did it go again? It's quiet, and there's a thunderstorm outside, and she's pouring her teapot quietly, and then her father is eating dumplings. She looks at her grandma, and the grandma's eating dumplings. No, she's taking a sip of tea, and she doesn't say anything. It's very quiet. The mother and the father are eating dumplings, and Mulan can't stand the quiet anymore, so she slams her tea or food, whatever it was. She slams it down, and she said, wait. I skipped ahead too much in my. All right, let me go back. After she's done with her song, no, before the dinner scene, she sits down on the bench and she's brushing her hair, not like with her fingers, and then her father sits next to her on the bench, but she looks away because she's upset. And he said, the blossoms are... What did he say? He said, look how many blossoms we have, I guess. And then he said, oh, but look, this one's late. But when it blooms, it'll be the most beautiful of all. And then he puts the blossom comb in her hair. And he smiles at her and she smiles back. Very cute smile. But then his smile fades. And so after he puts the nice blossom comb in her hair, he smiles at her, but then his smile goes away because he hears the drums. And Mulan was like, what is it? So then they hear the horses coming. And after the horses are coming, it's a bunch of soldiers on horses, and Shifu, the emperor's assistant, is leading them. And they approach, and when they go there, they open the gates. How did it go again? I'm trying to remember. What was it? I think he said to go inside. No, the mom told her to go inside, and the grandma points at the roof for Mulan to go on to. And Mulan goes onto the roof and watches. And Chi-Fu, I forgot what he said, but he's telling them that they're supposed to be drafted for the war. And he's handing out the notices to the men. What was it? The Wu family, I think. I think he said the Yin or something family. And then the son is standing with his father. He said, I will go serve the emperor in my father's place. And he takes the scroll. And then Shifu says, the Fa family. And Mulan says, no. And then the father takes his cane and he hands it to his wife as he marches towards Shifu. And then he said, I am ready to serve the emperor. And before he hands the notice, Shifu hands his soldier hands a notice to the dad. Mulan rushes and says, please, sir, my father is very ill, I think. And Shifu goes in front with his horse and says, silence! He said, you will teach your daughter to hold her tongue in a man's presence. And then her father, unfortunately, says, Mulan, you dishonor me. And the poor thing backs away, and her grandmother puts an arm on her and helps her stand back. And then Shifu says, report to the Wushu camp? I don't know how to say it. And the father says, yes, sir. And then Shifu starts continuing to say the names of the men that are supposed to serve. And they watch. He marches back inside without his cane. His wife offers the cane to him, but then he doesn't take it. So he keeps marching inside. And after he marches inside, they just watch him because he's trying so hard to be so strong. Now's the part with the dinner scene. So they're eating in silence. There's a thunderstorm outside, and Mulan is pouring her tea, and she looks at her grandma, who is drinking tea in silence. And after she's drinking the tea in silence, she looks at her mom and her father, who are eating their dumplings in silence. And Mulan can't take it anymore. So then she slams her food down, teacup, I don't know. She slams it down and she says, you shouldn't have to go. And the mom says, Mulan, and she says, there are plenty of men to fight for China. And the father says, it is an honor to serve my country and protect my family. And Mulan said, so you'll die for honor. He says, I will die doing what's right. She said, but I know my place. It is time you learned yours. Poor thing. Thank you for bringing it up like that. She looks so teary-eyed. Her eyes go wide, and then she leaves in a huff. And her father doesn't even care. He just sits back down to eat. Mulan rushes outside into the windy thunderstorm weather, and she hugs a statue or a pole or something, I don't know. And then she slides down to her knees, very sad. Now there's a flash of thunder. Do you call it a peal of thunder? And then peal of lightning. And then she is sitting between the legs of a statue, a dragon statue, I think, or dog statue. And her hair looks so pretty there, but then she lifts up her head and she looks down into the water. And she's staring at it, and my favorite song of the whole movie starts to play. I love it. And she's staring at the water. She looks inside, and she sees silhouettes of her father and mother hugging. And I said mother. Her father and mother hugging. And then they're talking. She sees their silhouettes talking. And then she looks at them, and then the the mom's silhouette runs away. And then the father blows out the candle. Then Mulan looks angry. She just got an epiphany. And then she looks angry and she rushes out, and the best song of the whole movie starts to play. After this, when the whole movie, the music starts to play, she's rushing inside into the place where they pray to the ancestors. And she has incense, and she lights it and puts it on Mushu's tray, gong, whatever it is. And she prays and bows her head, and Kriki is watching from above inside. and she rushes outside, and Creaky is following her. There's more thunderstorms as there's like a transition from a statue to a painting of one of the walls inside the house. It's a really cool transition. And then she is walking with a candle, and she places her pretty blossom comb on her father's table and smiles at him. And as she smiles at him sleeping with his wife, she leaves, shows that she has no continued anger at him. And when she leaves, she goes and gets her father's suit. Not yet. No, not yet. Is it? No, not yet. And she takes her father's sword, and she's sitting on the floor, and then she takes the sword and she slices off her hair. Really cool scene. After that, then she gets her father's armor and puts it on, and then she ties it around her waist, and then she goes outside with her father's sword. She puts it away in its sheath on her hip. Then she goes outside, and her horse Khan sees her, but the horse actually just sees like a random soldier, and he freaks out. He's like, "Who is this?" And it turns out it's Mulan, and she reassures him. And after she reassures him, she walks out with him, with his, do you call it a bridle? And then she looks back at her home, and so does Khan. And then she gets on the horse, and then it dashes off. After this, we see a huge zoom in inside the ancestral praying place, and the grandma sits up, and because she had a nightmare. And then she rushes into her Mulan's mother's and father's room, and she says, "Mulan is gone." And the father says, "What?" And then he looks at his bedside table and lifts up the comb, and then he says, "It can't be." And then he checks his wardrobe, and the armor is missing. After the armor is missing, he is just in shock. And then he rushes outside during the rain, and he say, "Mulan." And then he falls, and when he looks up, he sees that the doors are still swinging open, meaning that she just left, and he says no. And then the mom comes to the father's side, and she said, "You should go after her. She could be killed." And he said, "If I reveal her, she will be." And the mom is silently crying into her husband's shoulder. And then the grandma's watching them, and she says, "Ancestors, hear our prayer. Watch over Mulan." And now the funniest scene in the movie, we see the ancestors. The incense goes out, and now it's dark, and then all the spirits start rising out of the tombs. I don't know what you call them. And then the leader of the ancestors comes out, and he gets his staff, and then he says, "Mushu, awaken." And then Mushu, he awakens along with him and his gong, and then he says, "I live. So tell me what mortals something something. You just say the word and I'm there." And the leader says, "Mushu." And he said, no, listen. "Anyone who messes with our family, vengeance will be mine." And he looks like a zombie the way he's walking. And the leader says, "Mushu, these are the guardians of the family. They." And Mushu says, "Protect the family." He said, "And you, O demoted one." I ring the gong. That's right. Now wake up the ancestors. And Mushu says, "One family reunion coming right up. If people look alive," he says, "way past the Busey thing, trust me." And after that, the ancestors start coming out one by one. And the lady says, I knew it. That Mulan was a troublemaker from the start." He said, and one of the other ancestors said, "Don't look at me. She's from your side of the family." And the older ancestor lady, she says, "She's just trying to protect her father." And this accountant ancestor says, "Faju will be forever shamed. Dishonor will come in the family. Family values will disintegrate." And the farmer ancestor, the husband, says, "Not to mention they'll lose the farm." And another female ancestor says, I never had to worry about this. My son or something, I don't want to be an acupuncturist. And the other guy says, well, we can't all become acupuncturists. Oh my goodness. And then they all argue with each other. And one of the other ancestors said, let the guardian help her? I don't know. And then one of them says, yeah, awaken the most cunning. Another says, no, the swiftest. And another says, no, send the wisest. And the leader says, quiet. We will send the most powerful of them all. And then Musha says, okay, I get the hit, I'll go. And they're all quiet, then they start laughing. And Musha said, oh, really? He said, watch this. He blew a little tiny flame, nothing to be impressed about. And Musha said, I'm pretty hot, huh? Don't let me, what was it? Pretty hot, huh? Don't let me singe nobody to prove no point. I love Eddie Murphy. And I forgot the ancestors start making fun of Mushu. They said, you led Faju to disaster. And the guy who's decapitated, he said, yeah, thanks a lot. And Mushu says, and your point is? And Lear says, the point is, we will send a real dragon to retrieve her. And Mushu's like, what? I'm a real dragon. And the leader says, you are not worthy of the spot. Now, awaken the great stone dragon. And Mushu said, so you get back to me on the job thing. And he slams the gong in his face, the leader. I couldn't stop laughing. And he's rubbing his eyebrow. I like how he looks like Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince. I always thought that. And Mushu was angry. He's leaving. And he said, I forgot what he said, but he was like, he said, it's not like it would kill you. And he said, hey, Stony, wake up. You got to go fetch Mulan. And then he goes over to the statue. And he was like, Stony, come on, go get her, boy. Go get her. But the dragon is just not waking up. So So Musha's climbing the dragon. He's growling in his face. And he said, hello. And he slams the gong on his ear. And he says, oh. He accidentally broke the great stone dragon. Now it's a pile of rubble. And then from the huge ruckus, the leader says, great stone dragon, have you awakened? And Musha said, oh, yeah, I'm the great stone dragon. Oh, good morning. I'm going to ready and go fetch Mulan. Did I mention I'm the great stone dragon? And Lear says, go. The family's fate rests in your claws. And Musha said, don't even worry about this. I will not lose faith. And then he falls back and he's left with the great stone dragon's head. He's like, oh, I know I broke something. And the dragon head fell on him and he pushed it aside. He said, that's it. He's like, go get her. He's like, what you see? After the big mess I made, I'll have to get a home with a medal to enter back in the temple. And then Musha says, wait, that's it. I'd make Mulan a war hero. They'd be begging me to come back to work. That's the lucky plan. He said, oh, you done it now, man. And then he is, Creaky's following him. And Mushu says, what makes you think you're coming? And Creaky is cricketing. I don't know how to say that. And then Mushu said, you're lucky? Don't look a sucker to you. And Creaky is cricketing whatever again. And Mushu says, a loser? How about I pop up one of your antennas and throw it across the yard? Then who's a loser? Me or you? All right. And now, I can't believe I'm doing this. We cut to the scene where it's Shan Yu's whole team. And the Falcon is flying in, and all of Shan Yu's army is following him. And one of Shan Yu's henchmen, he has 2 soldiers that they captured. I think he called them spies. I don't know. Hi! I'm reciting all of Mulan from memory. Yeah. So that he gets the soldiers. I think he said Imperial Guards. I don't know. And he threw the soldiers in front. And then, man, what happened next? He threw the soldiers in front of Shan Yu. Imperial Guards, I think. And then Shan Yu approaches. I think he takes off his hood. And, oh, I remember. Then he takes one of the, I'm good. He takes one of the collars of the Imperial Guards, or whatever they are. And Shan Yu said, good work, boys. You've discovered the Hun army. And then the guy that he his associate, he says, The emperor will stop you. And Shan Yu says, stop me? He invited me. And he grabs the guy who's talked back to him and said, by building his walls, he tested my strength. Well, I'm here to play his little game. And then he says, go. He throws the man and says, tell your emperor to prepare his armies. I don't know. And then he says, I'm ready. Tell your emperor to send his strongest armies. And then he says, I'm ready. And he throws him. And then the two soldiers run off. And then Shan Yu says, how many men does it take to send a message? And Shan Yu's archer says, 1. So creepy. All you could hear is the arrow whooshing, which means one is dead. I always thought it's the one that talks back. Oh no. In my mind, here comes the cringe. I mean, this has all technically been cringe, but whatever. All right. This part. This part is so embarrassing. I don't care. I'm brave. I can do this. I'm going to do it. Okay, let's go. So, I'm scared. So there's Mulan, and I can't do this. Mulan is there with her horse, and she's doing her she's doing her men impressions. And she says to Khan, who looks bored chewing on a piece of hay, she said, okay, how about this? Excuse me, I'd like to sign in. A sword? I have one too. They're very manly and tough. And she spills it. She drops her sword, and the horse is losing his mind laughing at her. She threw her shoe at him. He said, I'm working on it. And then she said, I forgot what else she said, but then she said, it's going to be a miracle for me to enter the army. And Mush said, did I hear someone ask for a miracle? Let me hear you say, ah. She goes, ah. He said, that's close enough. And she says, a ghost. He said, get ready, Mulan. Your salvation is at hand. And what did he say? I have been sent by your ancestors. And Creaky's doing a little dragon imitation. He steps on it. He says, to help you with your masquerade. And he said to Creaky, you're going to stay, you're going to work. So Creaky starts fanning the flames. He says, hear my words. Once the army finds out you're a girl, the penalty is death. And then Mulan says, who are you? He says, who am I? Who am I? I am the warrior of lost souls. I am the honorable, the pleasurable, the indestructible Mushu. And it's a tiny little dragon, and she looks so disappointed. And he says, I am pretty hot, huh? And the horse stomps on him 1,000,000 times, and he looks so crushed like a bug. And he's coughing because he got stomped on. And Mulan said, my ancestor sent a little lizard to help me. He said, hey, dragon, not lizard. I don't do that tongue thing. And he did it anyway, so what was the point? And then Mulan said, you're a little, he said, something impression, I don't know. She said, tiny. Of course, I'm travel size for your convenience. If I was my real size, your cow here would die of fright. And the horse bites him. He said, down, Bessie. And he said, for instance, I forgot what he said about his power. He said, I can see straight through your armor. Mulan slaps him. And he says, okay, that's it. Dishonor on you. He's like, dishonor? He's like, make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow. Thank you. She said, stop. I'm sorry. I'm nervous. I've never done this before. And Mushu said, then you are going to have to trust me. And no more hitting me anymore. We clear on that? As she nods, he says, all right. He said, okay, let's hit the road. Quick, get the bags. Let's move it, heifer. And the horse is glaring at him. And then they're looking at the soldiers ahead. And I forgot what they said here. But Mushu was giving her instructions. And he was like, all right, shoulders back. Legs, knees apart. And strut. 2, 3, 4. She looks like a fool the way she's walking. Thanks a lot, Mushu. And then they're walking past them, and Mushu says, beautiful, isn't it? And Mulan said, they're disgusting. The soldiers are doing all kind of nasty things, picking their toes, their nose. And Mushu said, no, they're men. He said, you have to do the same thing, so trust me. And this guy says to Yao, Ling, and Qian Pao, I love them. He says, look, this tattoo will protect me from harm. He has a tattoo on his stomach. And then Yao says, And he punches him in the stomach. And Link says, I hope you get your money back. And Mulan looks so wide-eyed. She said, I don't think I can do this. And then Mushu says, that's just how men say hello. No. He didn't say that. He said, I don't think I could do this. I think Mushu said to trust him. He's going to carry through this. He said, be tough like this guy here. And Yao spits and he says to Mulan, what are you looking at? And Mushu said, punch him. That's how men say hello. Boom! She punches him. He slams right into Yao. Into Chen Pao. And Chen Pao says, ooh, Yao, I think you've made a friend. And then Mushu says, now slap them on the rear. They like that. And Mulan and Yao says, whoa, I'm going to punch you so hard, it'll make your ancestors dizzy. And Chen Pao says, Yao, become and chant with me. And he lifts Yao and he's going, Amida Hula. And Yao's chanting with him and Chen Pao says, feel better? And Yao says, yeah. And Yao said, yeah. You ain't worth my time, chicken boy. And Mushu says, chicken boy? Why you say that to my face, you limp noodle? And then Mulan is terrified because Yao thinks she said that. And then Yao pulls Mulan and she ducks and Yao beats the crap out of Ling. And Yao says, oops, sorry, Ling. And then Mulan's trying to escape. And Yao says, hey. And then Ling pulls Yao and starts beating the crap out of him saying, you're dead. And they're beating each other up on top of Chen Pao. And Mulan is trying to escape from them. And there's a bunch of people lined up for food. And Mulan is thinking, no, I remember. She runs into a tent. And they chase her into the tent. And there's a bunch of chickens, I think, inside there. And then they run out of the tent, but she's still in there smiling at them. And then there's a bunch of people lined up for some rice gruel or food. And then Ling runs there, then Yao. And Chen Pao is the final bowling pin. He bumps into them. And he bumps into everybody online for the food. And they all start going over like dominoes, falling over. Even the cook falls, and so does his food. And Mulan realizes the mess she made. And they're all glaring at her. And she says, hey, guys, as they're all coming towards her. And now there's this scene where Shang is with his father and they're making military plans. I forgot the dialogue here. They're inside the tent making military plans, talking about where to cut Shan Yu off. And then he says something about impressive military lineage. That's who he is. He says he's going to leave Shang in charge while he goes out to the front lines. And he said, he puts him in charge. And Shifu said, I won't leave anything out. So uptight. And then he makes Shang captain. And when he rides off with the horse, he says, good luck, captain. And he runs off with his team to the front lines. And Shang says, good luck, father. And Shifu says, day one, with his clipboard. And Shang sees the mess of all the soldiers beating the crap out of each other. And Shang says, soldiers. And they start fighting and they all point at Mulan and they say, he started it. And then Shang walks towards Mulan. Okay, thank you so much for coming. God bless you. So Shang starts walking towards Mulan. And he said, I won't accept anyone making trouble in my camp. And Mulan says, sorry, in her girly voice. But then she remembers she's supposed to be a guy. So she says, sorry, just that you get some of those manly urges. You just gotta punch something. And he said, what's your name? And Mulan's like, and Shifu said, the captain, the general, whatever, just asked you what your name was. And what did he say? I'm trying to remember. And Mulan said, I have a name, and it's a good one too. And then Mushu said Ling, and she said his name is Ling. And Shang said, I didn't ask for his name, I asked for yours. And then, I forgot what else they said, but then Mushu was like, Achu. And he said, Achu? He said, Gesundheit. Oh, I killed myself. And Mulan said, Mushu. And Shang said, Mushu? She said, no. He said, then what is it? And then Mushu says, Ping. Ping, that's my best man growing up. And Mulan said, it's Ping. And Shang said, Ping. And Mushu said, of course, Ping did steal mine. And Mulan covered his mouth. And Mulan said, yes, my name is Ping. And Shang says, let me see your description notice. And then she hands it to him. And he says, Faju, D, Faju. And Shifu said, I didn't know Faju had a son. And Mulan said, he doesn't talk about me much. And she spits, but it's just hanging so nasty. And Shifu says, I could see why. The boy's an absolute lunatic. And they're all laughing. And Shang says that they're all gonna clean up the mess they make. And they're all gonna pick up every single grain of rice. And tomorrow, the real work begins. And they're all glaring at Mulan. And Mushu says, I think we gotta work on your people skills. Alright. I can't believe I'm doing this. Alright, so the next scene, it's the morning. I always feel bad at this part. It's a bunch of tents. And, like, they're all lined up next to each other. But poor Mulan has her tent to the side. But I think it's because she showed up late. But I don't know. And it looks so, like, clumsily built. And it's tied to, like, a post, a tree. I don't know. But Khan is next to her. And what happened next? Mulan is inside, and she's sleeping, and then a clock alarm goes off, and she sits up, and Mushu says, "Good morning, made breakfast for ya." And then it's like, he said, "It's porridge, and it's happy to see ya." It's like eggs and porridge, and Creaky pops up in the middle, and then Mushu takes out the chopsticks and flings them. He's like, "Get out there! You're gonna make people sick." And Mulan says, "Am I late?" And Mushu said, "No time for talking. You gotta prepare for the training." I don't know. He said, "And if the other kids mess with you, then you gotta kick the other kid's butt." And she said, "But I don't want to kick the other kid's butt." And he said, "Don't talk with your mouth full. Now, let me see your war face." And then she has a mouthful of porridge because he stuffed it in. She looks silly. He said, "I think my bunny slippers just ran for cover. Come on, scare me, girl." And then she growls in his face and said, "Yes, that's my war hill. Now we're talking." And then Khan busts his head inside the tent, and he's making these noises, and Mulan's putting on her jacket. And Mushu says, "What do you mean the other troops left?" And Mulan said, "They what?" So then she runs out of the tent, putting on her shoe, and Mushu says, "Wait, you forgot your sword." And then he gets teary-eyed with his little apron. He says, "My little baby off to destroy people." And he starts crying, and Creaky pats his head, so cute. So now they're at the camp, and when they're at the camp, and then Chifu says, "Order, people, order," because the soldiers are messing around. And then one of them says, "I like a pan-fried noodle." And Chifu Xianpao said, "Sweet and tender shrimp." And Yao says, "Goo goo gai pan." And Chifu said, "That's not funny." And they all start laughing, and then they see Mulan approaching. And Ling said, "Look who slept in this morning. Hey, Ping, how are ya?" And I think they said that he looks hungry. I don't know. And Yao said, "I think you could use a knuckle sandwich." And then Shang says, "Soldiers." So everybody starts lining up. And then Shang says that he expects them to be around the same time every morning. And he says, "Anyone who shows up late will answer to me." And Yao goes, "Ooh, tough guy." And Shang says, "Yao." And then everybody steps out of line, and then Shang points his arrow at Yao, and Yao looks shocked, and then Shang shoots his arrow to the top of the post, and he says, "Thank you for volunteering. Now, retrieve the arrow." And then Yao said, "I'll retrieve that arrow, pretty boy, and I'll do it with my shirt on." And he walks towards the post, and Shang says, "One moment, you seem to be missing something." And Chifu, I think, he has these large weights, and then he hands them to Shang. He takes them out, and he says, "This is of discipline." And he puts it on Yao. It's very heavy. And he says, "And this represents strength." And he puts it on Yao. He falls because they're both so heavy. And Qian Pao and Ling are laughing at him, but Mulan isn't. And then Shang says, "You need both to retrieve the arrow." So then Yao looks up. It's a very high pole. And then Yao looks up, and then he grabs onto the pole. And he climbs as high as he can, but it's not working out. He slides down. He uses his teeth to try and stop it, but he just falls down anyway. It's like biting the curb, 4K. And then next is Ling. He uses the weights to climb the pole, but then they're too heavy on him. So he falls like a string bean he is. Sorry. And then Qian Pao he falls, but he's so heavy that the post, I don't know what you call it. It when he falls, it went into the air, then it fell back down. Basically, everybody's failing at this, and not Shang, Mulan, she falls down too, and then she's rubbing her back and walking away, and Shang says, "We got a long way to go." He takes a bunch of staffs, and he throws it to all of them to get ready to fight, to spar. And then Yao catches Mulan's, and Mulan puts her hands on her hips, and Yao hits it under her feet, and she falls and stares up at him, and then he throws it down at her. And then Shang begins the most iconic Disney song of all time, aside from Lion King. I love this song. Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. I'm not going to sing the rest because I'm shy. Alright, so basically, while he's singing the song, "Did they send me daughters were asked for sons?" Yao takes a bug he found, and he puts it in the back of Mulan's outfit. And then she freaks out and starts hitting everybody with her staff because there's a bug crawling in her shirt. And Shang uses his staff to repel himself over everybody. And then he lands in front of Mulan, who accidentally hits him with the staff as well. And then he snatches her staff and says, "Mr. I'll make a man out of you." And Mushu's charging. He wants to fight, but Creaky's holding him back. And Chifu's in the distance with a ink brush marking off the clipboard. And next, Shang uses some sort of plank to propel an apple into the air, and then he shoots the arrow at the tree. And the apple hits the tree right on the mark. So everybody else tries to imitate him, but they're all failing. Their apples are going their arrows are going here and there. And then Mushu's comes out in Mulan's bag, and then he puts the apple on her arrow, cheater. And put the apple on her arrow. And then Shang catches her cheating and she smiles at him. You know, she's not the one who cheated. I'm trying to remember the rest of the lyrics. "Twinkle as a forest, but on fire within. You know, you said to you short." Oh, I remember. Alright, so next is the pail scene. Mulan has Shang first. He has the water bucket on his head. And everybody throws rocks at him, and he has a staff, and he knocks all of the, everybody's throwing rocks at him because they're supposed to. He hits all the rocks with his staff, and the water bucket stays on his head, not even spilling a drop. Now it's Mulan's turn, and Qianpao, Ling, and Yao are going to have fun with this one. They all throw the rocks at her, and the bucket immediately falls on her head, and she's hitting the staff in every which way, and then she hits one rock at Qianpao's stomach because it missed Shang. He moved out of the way just in time, and he glares at her. And then she lifts the bucket from her head. And then next, I think they're in the river stream. Yeah. They're in the river stream. And then Shang fishes just by slapping his hand into the water. He grabs the fish out. And Mulan and Yao try to imitate that. Mulan dips her hand in the water just like he did. She's smiling. She thought she got a fish, but she got Yao's foot. And then Yao is in the water. She gently puts his foot down because she doesn't want him to beat the crap out of her. And Mushu comes out of the water with chopsticks over his nose, holding something over his nose. Chopsticks holding a fish. Stop cheating for her. And now we're up to the part with the song where he goes, Qianpao, I think he's like, "I'm never gonna catch my breath," and they say goodbye to those who know me. They're chasing all these fire arrows or whatever, and then they're trying to dodge them, but it hits Yao in the butt. And Link said, "Boy, was I a fool in school for a cutting gym." He slams his head on the cinder block and he broke his several teeth, and then he had a black eye too. And what was next? Oh, Shang was sparring with Mulan, but she didn't want to fight because she doesn't know how. And he gave her a black eye. She slammed into a tree. Mushu said, "This guy got him scared to death." And Mulan says, "Hope he doesn't see right through me." And then he puts a wet towel over her to, I guess, I don't know, hose her off, whatever. And then he pushes her back in the fight with Shang. And Qianpao says, What did Mulan say? Hope doesn't see right through me. Chien Pao says, now I really wish that I knew how to swim. And then he's trying to cross the rocks over the water, but he's struggling, so everybody else behind him has to wait, even Shang. So now, be a man, you must be swift as a course. I'm trying to remember the rest. Boy, I wish that I knew how to swim. Man, what happened here? I'm trying to remember. Must be swift as a course. Your father's strength of a great typhoon. Basically, it's like a montage, I guess. The shape of a raging water. And then, hi, welcome back. Mysterious as the dark side of the moon. And then Shang, he's watching them in the distance as they're going back to their tents at nighttime, and they're looking up at the pole. They're upset because they still can't reach the top. Now we're at the part when Shang is like, time is racing towards us till the Huns arrive. They all have these heavy water buckets on their back, and Mulan is exhausted. She's all the way in the back. It's too heavy for her. She collapses, and Mushu and Kriki are trying to wake her up. And then Shang kneels down and picks up the water buckets, and she looks shocked. And he puts it over his back like it's nothing. And he looks so disappointed in her, and he walks away. And Mulan looks upset with herself too. She lowers her head as he hops ahead to get ahead of everybody else. And then she's rubbing her arm. He goes, heed my every order. Time is racing towards us. The Huns arrive. Heed my every order, and you might survive. You're unsuited for the rage of war. So pack up, go home. You're through. He walks over to the pole. Not the pole. He walks over to Mulan, who is walking towards back her tent. She's walking back towards her tent. And then he hands her horse to her, basically saying, get out of here. Go home. Pack up. Go home. You're through. He hands the horse's bridle to her, basically saying, go. You're useless. And Mulan looks so upset. And she's seriously about to go. And he says, how can I make a man out of you? Thank you. And then she looks up at the pole and she is like, no, I can do this. So then she goes back to the pole with the weights on, and she falls, and then she looks at them and she's like, wait, I have an idea. She wraps the poles, the weights around the pole, and she uses them to propel herself up. I got chills when I saw this scene for the first time. And then she, oh, it's okay. Thank you so much for stopping by. God bless you. And then she wraps the weights around the pole and starts climbing with them. And then Shang comes out of his tent. Everybody comes out of their tents to see what's going on. She did it at the break of dawn. Amazing. She reached the top. She comes out of his tent and she throws the arrow down at his feet. And everybody is cheering for her. The girl did it. She climbed the pole. And then everybody starts succeeding. God bless them all. Everybody starts succeeding. They're all shooting arrows into the apples in a line on the tree. Mulan is racing ahead of everybody with the water buckets on her back. And then Mulan is fighting Shang, and then she knocks him back, and he looks impressed. He's like, you go, girl, in his own special way. And then everybody's succeeding. Yao is dodging the fire arrows. Ling broke the cinder block with his face. Mulan fished 2 fish with both hands out of the river stream. And then they're all practicing with their staffs. Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. So Shan Yu is at the top of a tree, and then he slices off the top, and he's looking at the mountains, I think, and his falcon drops a doll on them. And then he looks at the doll, has a cute little face. Looks like a Hello Kitty character. And then he jumps down to his men, and then he says, here, what do you see? And then they're all taking stuff from the doll, and he says, one of his men says, black pine from the high mountains. Another one says white horsehair, imperial stallions. Another one says sulfur from canyons. And Shan Yu says this doll was from a village or something. And then through some sort of pass. And then the archer says we could avoid them easily. And Shan Yu says no. The only way towards the palace is through that pass. He says besides, the little girl will be missing her doll. We should return it to her. That was creepy. Alright, so now there's a scene with Mulan and she's going to the water to take a bath, and Mushu says, I don't know about this. What if someone sees you? And Mulan says, just because I dress like a man doesn't mean I have to smell like one. And Mushu says, ooh, so a few guys don't pick out their socks. Picky, picky, picky. Besides, kind of like that corn chip smell. And Mulan goes into the water and she says, ah. And Mushu is like, oh, okay, that's enough. Get a towel or whatever. And Mulan's like, Mushu, if you're so worried, go stand watch. Yeah. Stand watch, Mushu, while I blow our secrets with my stupid girly habits. Hygiene. And then, here come the guys. They're all rushing in. And then they're all taking their clothes off. And Mushu says, we're doomed. There's a couple things I know they're bound to notice. Fun fact, when I saw this as a kid, I did not know what he meant. I know now. And then Mulan sees it coming, and then she hides in the water, and then Ling is like, yeah, running in. And then Yao goes in, and Qian Pao dips one toe in, and then he jumps in. And Yao and Ling are pushed by the wave, and they're all having fun. And then they see Mulan, and Yao says, hey, Ping. And Mulan says, oh, guys, I didn't know you were here. I was just going to bed, so I don't know. And now I'm done. Bye-bye. And Link says, come back here. He's like, we're sorry for how we treated you. He's like, hi, let's start over. Hi, I'm Ling. And Mulan backs into Qian Pao without realizing it. He says, and I'm Qian Pao. And she says, hello, Qian Pao. And Yao says, and I am Yao, king of the rock. And there's nothing you girls can do about it. And Link says, oh yeah, I think Ping and I could take you on. And Mulan says, I really don't want to take him anywhere. And Ling goes, Ping, we have to fight. And Mulan says, no, we don't. We could just close our eyes and swim around. And Ling says, come on, don't be such a, something bit me. And Mushu bit him. He comes out, he's like, ugh, what a nasty flavor. And Ling says, snake. And they're rushing out of the water. They're rushing out of the water, freaking out. Mulan whistles for her horse. I can't whistle though. And then they're all going, snake, and yo, snake, snake. And then Mulan comes out with her horse. And she's shielded by him, and they're all getting out of the water. And then Yao, Ling, and Qian Pao are on top of a rock, and Ling says, some king of the rock. Yao pushes him out into the water. And then Mulan takes the towel from her horse, she wraps it around her. She says, that was close. And Mushu says, no, that was bow. You owe me back. You owe me big. Bad, big? I don't know. You owe me big, I guess. And Mulan says, I never want to see a naked man again. And a million go rushing by. I lost it when I saw it. A million they go rushing by naked. I was laughing so hard. And she's so wide-eyed. And Mushu says, hey, don't look at me. I ain't biting no more butts. And then, now, cut to the scene where Mulan's all dressed. She put her hair back in a bun. And then she's going to the tent. What did he say again? Because now we're at Shang and Shifu in the tent. Hold on, what was it? I think Shifu, Mulan, I'm not buying no more butts. I think Shifu's telling Shang that his troops aren't ready for war. And Shang says they completed their training. I was about to say training. And Shifu said, those boys are no more fit to be soldiers than you are to be captain. Once the general sees my report, your troops will never see battle. And then Mushu says, oh, no, you don't. I worked too hard on this. This guy's ruining my plan. And Shang says, we are not finished. And Shifu says, be careful, Captain. You may be the general's son, but I am the emperor's counsel. So that's what it was. And he says, and oh, by the way, I got that job on my own. Ooh, you're dismissed. And Shang brushes out of the tent upset. And Mulan's watching, and he walks past her. She says, hey, how about you hold him and I punch? And he walks past her, ignoring her. She says, or not. And then she says, for what it's worth, I think you're a great captain. He looks back at her. It looks like he's a little touched, but he doesn't show it. No smile or anything. He just looks at her, and then he walks off. And Mushu says, I saw that. She says, what? You like him, don't you? No, yeah. Go back to your tent. And then Mulan looks at him angry, and then she looks at Shang, and then she smiles and walks off to her tent. And then Mushu is like, what did he say again? He said, I think he said, I got a little plan of my own. I don't know. And then, oh, I remember. He said, I gotta take a plan to my own hands. And then Creaky's looking at his hands. That's how I remembered. And then, what happened next? I'm trying to remember. Oh, I remember. They're in, Creaky's writing the letter. And Mushu is reading the letter after he's done. He's making cute little typewriter sounds with his feet as he writes the letter. And Mushu says, okay, let me see what you got. So something, it would be mean a lot if you could come and back us up. And Mushu says, I think you're missing. And then we could get some potpourri. Hello! We're in the army. Make it sound more urgent, please. You know what I'm talking about? And then Creaky was like saluting. And he writes something better. And Mushu says, better, much better. Let's go. So then he rushes to Khan with Creaky. And he says, Connie, baby. Hey, we need to ride. Khan squirts water out of his teeth at Mushu and blows him back. And he looks at Creaky. And Creaky's like, yeah, I don't want to mess with you. And he rushes off. And Khan looks at them like they're crazy because they are. And then next, I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah, I remember. It was Chifu's turn to go into the water to bathe. And then he got mad at them. He said, you men owe me a new pair of slippers. And I do not squeal like a girl. Because a panda just ate a slipper. And then it's Mushu on a panda with Creaky dressed as a fake general or whatever. And then Mushu says, this is important, urgent notice from the general. And Chifu's staring at them like they're weird because they are. And Mushu says, what's the matter? You never seen a black and white before? And Chifu looks at them and he says, who are you? And Mushu says, excuse me? I should be asking, who are you? We're in a war, man. Ain't no time for stupid questions. I should snatch your hat for that. Snatch it right off your head. Welcome back. And Mushu says, but you should be gracious. I'm in a good mood, so carry on before I report you. And then he climbs up the tree with the panda. And Chifu looks around because they're now gone. And he's looking around shocked. And then he rushes to the tent with Shang. And he says, Captain, urgent news or whatever. He says, we're needed at the front. And Lucia says, pack your bags, Creaky. We're moving out. And he high-fives Creaky. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm happy that's back. He high-fives Creaky and says, pack your bags, Creaky. We're moving out. Now, this song, it's nice, but it's not one of my favorites. It's a girl we're fighting for. It starts playing. First 100 miles we've been marching off to battle. And Yao says, for a thundering herd, we feel a lot like cattle. And they're like, the cattle look so insulted. It take a long time to get there. And then soldiers say, saying that their aching feet are too exhausted to ignore. And Ling says, think of instead a girl we're fighting for. Oh, I know. I've never done this before. This is my first time doing this. It's not history. I'm completely reciting everything I remember of Mulan. I haven't watched that movie in years. I'm reciting everything I can remember about Mulan. I've always wanted to try this. This is all straight from my head. I've never done this before. So Ling says, think of instead a girl we're fighting for. And Mulan's like, huh? And he says, that's what I said. A girl we're fighting for. I want her paler than the moon, with eyes that shine like stars. And then Yao says, my girl will marvel at my strengths. Oh, thank you. Yao says, my girl will marvel at my strengths, adore my battle scars. And Chien Pao says, I couldn't care less what she wear or what she looks like. It all depends on what she cooks, like beef, pork, chicken. And what happens next? They're walking in the water with their swords above their head. And Yao said to Mulan, I bet the girls back home thought you were quite the charmer. And Ling, he comes out of the water with a lot of water in his armor, making him look muscular. He says, and I bet the ladies love a man in armor. And when he flexes, all the water pours out. He's a string bean. And then Mulan, there's a bunch of young women that are farming in the water, picking out stuff from the water, some grass or whatever. And then Mulan looks at them. And then she realizes they think she's a guy, so she looks away embarrassed, and the girls start giggling. So then they're talking about what would make them attractive, the girls, and Chien Pao's and I'm a major find. I'm a major find. They're all talking about what would impress the girls, and Mulan says, how about a girl who's got a brain, who always speaks her mind? And the guy said, nah. I loved that part. And Link says, my manly ways and turn of phrase are sure to thrill her. And Yao says he thinks he's such a lady killer. He slaps the horse that's drawing the carriage that Link's leaning against, and then Link falls on the ground. Poor thing, he falls right in the mud. And Chifu says on his horse, I have a girl back home who's unlike any other. And Yao says, yeah, but the only girl who loves him is his mother. And then Chifu looks so insulted. And then, what happened next? Oh, I remember. Yao was making snow women. Very voluptuous snow women. And they're all the soldiers join arms with Mulan, chanting, singing, a girl we're fighting for. And Link says, wish that I won. And they sing, a girl we're fighting for. They're all whistling, and Mulan's whistling, and she tries to break away from the guys. And they said, a girl we're fighting. And they all have snowballs ready to throw at Mulan. But they all turn around just in time to see that everybody's dead. Yeah. They come to the village and everybody's dead. They're slowly walking towards it. They see a bunch of burned... They don't see that everybody's dead yet, though. They just see a bunch of burned tents, I think. And then as they're walking closer, Chang says, I don't understand. No, not yet. Mulan, she approaches and she sees a doll laying in the snow. And then she picks it up and hugs it. And then Shang approaches her and he says, I don't understand. My father should have been here. And Shifu says, Captain! And then Shifu leads them to the, he leads Shang to a overpass or whatever, a place where they didn't see everything yet. He's pointing down an area, and then Shang comes next to Chifu to see what he's pointing at, and it's the whole army. Everybody's dead, unfortunately. And Shang is looking at the whole scene with his eyes wide open. He's in shock. And then not Chifu, I keep mixing up their names. Qian Pao, he comes up with the general's helmet, and he says to Shang, the general. And he hands the helmet to Shang. And then Shang is upset and very sad. He holds the general's helmet. He walks away. And Mulan looks at him in sadness. All the other soldiers are looking at the scene in horror. Mulan looks at Shang. And he walks away. He takes out his sword. He puts it in the snow. And he puts the general's helmet on the sword. And he kneels down in front of it, and Mulan walks over. She feels so bad. And then she says, I'm sorry. And he gets up and walks to Mulan. He puts a hand on her shoulder and walks away. Very sad. So then next, everybody's just walking in complete silence at the extreme tragedy they saw. And then out of nowhere, a rocket fires out of the carriage. And Mulan looks so angry at Mushu, and Mushu looks shocked. He's pointing at Creaky, and Creaky is like, why are you pointing at me? I didn't do that. The rocket fires out of the cannon into the air, and Shang approaches, and he says to Mulan, what did you just do? And she's like, he said, you just gave our position. And then an arrow goes flying right into Shang, and everyone's shocked, and Shang pulls the arrow out of him, and he says, save the cannons. And then everybody starts rushing to the tent. No, did he say that yet? Did he say take cover? I don't know. And then everybody's, their arrows with fire. They're shooting at the tent, and Mushu's covering it in shot. Then Shang says, save the cannons, and everybody's rushing towards the cannons. The carriage to take all the cannons out. Everybody's rushing, and they're taking it out, handing each other one by one. And then, what happened next? I'm trying to remember. They hand the cannons one by one to each other. They're all hiding. And then Khan is freaking out because the carriage he's attached to is on fire. So Mulan takes out her sword and slashes it down on the carriage and frees Khan from it. But then the carriage explodes. And Mulan and Khan are blown onto the snow. And then Mushu falls next to Mulan with Creaky, I think. And then Mushu says, "Oh, sure, save the horse." And Mulan picks him up and runs, and they're all running. I'm trying to remember what happens next. Trying to remember. They're all running. And then they all start putting their cannons down, and they're firing back at the army that was firing at them. They're all firing back, launching their rockets, and Shang is saying, "Fire, fire!" And then Mulan covers her ears, and they're all firing their rockets back. And they all aim at every army man that they could see. And then Shang, he says, "Hold the last cannon. There's one left." And they're waiting, and Mulan, they're all watching to see if they eliminated the army. Then when the smoke or snow clears, Shan Yu is there with his horse and his falcon, and the whole army is there. It's so many of them. I was shocked when I saw that. It was like 1,000,000 of them. I know it's not 1,000,000, but that's what it seemed like. And then Shang said, "Prepare to fight. If we die, we die with honor." And they all take out their swords. And Shan Yu rushes towards them. The falcon flies ahead of them. And then Shang tells one of them to aim I think it was Yao. I don't know. He tells one of them to aim the cannon at Shan Yu. And then Mulan comes up with an idea out of nowhere. She's holding her sword. She looks down at it, and it's reflecting the top of the mountain peak. And then she looks up and she gets an idea. She puts her sword away. She pushes Yao. That's what it was. It was Yao who had the rocket. She pushes Yao the way. And Yao says, "Hey." And Mulan picks the rocket up and runs towards Shan Yu. And Shang says, Mulan. He says, "Ping, come back. Ping." And then Khan is neighing because he's upset. He was like, "My owner." And then Mulan is rushing with a serious face with the rocket, and Mushu's on her back, and she's rushing towards Shan Yu, and Shang is still yelling at Mulan. He's still yelling, "Stop!" She plants the rocket down and points it up towards the mountain peak, and then Shan Yu is getting closer and closer, and then she's looking for something. She finds a rock, and she's trying to, like a flint, she's trying to light the rocket, and Mushu said, "You want to light that right about now? Quickly!" The falcon comes out of nowhere and swoops down and hits her in the head. So annoying. And then Mulan, because of that stupid falcon, she lost the rock, the flint. So now she's looking everywhere in the snow for it, and then Shan Yu's getting closer and closer with his sword. So then Mulan has an idea. Obviously, I have a dragon right next to me. She picks him up, and then she pulls him like an accordion, and he lights the rocket, and he goes on top of it. She launches it, and then it goes flying into the distance past Shan Yu. And then Mushu said, "You missed! How could you miss? He was 3 feet in front of you!" And then it hits the top of the mountain peak, and all the snow comes down. Avalanche! So now the avalanche is coming down everywhere, and it washes over all of the troops of Shan Yu, and Shan Yu is in shock. He looks at Mulan in anger. Mulan is smiling like, "Aha, I got you, sucker." And then Shan Yu is like, "Ah!" He slashes her with the sword, and she somehow, maybe because of adrenaline, she rushes away, and then she sees Shang in the distance. She grabs his hand and rushes off with him. And they're all running. I'm trying to remember what happens next, and what happened next? The avalanche, it keeps picking up speed. The rest of the soldiers find a nice large rock to hide under. And then they hide under the large rock. The avalanche washes right over them, thank God. And then, what happens next? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it got too heavy and thick, the avalanche. And Mulan has Shang, and she's on the horse, and the avalanche is washing over them. Shang is now unconscious, unfortunately. They're all Mushu is sliding down the avalanche on a shield. And he's looking for Mulan. He's like, "Mulan! He picks up a hunt's head, and he goes, "Rah!" And Mushu goes, "Nope." He sticks his head back in the snow. I laughed so hard. And Mushu's like, "Mulan!" And he found Creaky. He said, "You are a lucky bug." So now Mulan is trying to climb back up the cliff because, it's rushing him off the cliff, the avalanche. It backfired, kind of. So she's trying, but just keeps pushing them. And Mushu gets with Mulan, and he says, Mulan, I found the lucky cricket. And Mulan says, we need help. So then Mulan finds a bow and arrow, and Mushu sits on the back of Khan with Creaky. He says, nice, very nice, you can sit by me. And then he goes, ah, because the cliff is coming. He said, oh, it's over, we're doomed, They know we're coming for this. Death is coming. And they're all rushing off the cliff. Mulan takes the bow and arrow, she fires it. It's attached to a string, and she fires it in the distance. In the distance is Yao and the rest of them. They're all safe now. And Yao says, oh, I remember, wait, before that. Yao, he fired the bow and arrow. I remember, he tried to help them with the bow and arrow with the string because Mulan and Shang needed it. And then he says, perfect, now all I have to do is drag them to safety. It went out of his hands, the stringed arrow. So now Mulan has it now, thank God. She found it and she fires it back. And Yao says, I let it slip through my fingers. And then he catches it. I'm going to come back. He's grabbing onto the arrow with the string on it. And he's holding it. It's pulling them. Everybody's trying to hold on to it with all their might. But Shang, Mulan, the horse, they're all heavy. So they're holding on to it with all their might. Then Qian Pao comes out of nowhere and picks them up like they're nothing. Like they weigh nothing. And he pulls them back. And after he pulls them back, they're successfully pulling Mulan, Shang, and Khan, and Mushu, and Creaky up the cliff. Thank God they didn't die. And Mushu says, I knew you could do it. You're the man. And Mulan smiles, and then he comes back up and says, well, sort of. And Mulan looks a little angry or annoyed at him. So then Khan climbs up the cliff. And Mulan and Shang, they're all successfully saved. They all climb up the cliff as well, with Creaky and Mushu. All know they are. And then Shang is awake now, thank God. And then he says to Mulan, Ping, you are the strangest man I've ever met. But what did he say after that? You are the strangest man I've ever met. But you have my thanks? I don't know. And then he puts a hand on her shoulder. He's happy. And Link says, let's hear it for Ping, the bravest of us all. And Yao says, you're king of the mountain. And Qian Pao says, yes, yes, yes. Even hip butt somebody. It's funny. And then Shang helps Mulan to her feet. Thank you so much. Shang helps Mulan to her feet. And she goes, ah. And then Shang says, Mulan, what's wrong? And then she reveals where her hand is. All this blood. When I saw this for the first time, I was like, wow, Disney? You put blood in the movie? Mulan revealed her hand to show all the blood coming from her stomach or hip side, whatever. And then she looks so weak, poor thing. And Shang says, he's wounded, get help. And then Mulan is fading out, she's fainting. And then she looks at him, her eyes are closing. And he says, his voice is fading out. He says, Ping, hold on. And there's a zoom in on his lips, that's all she could see at this point. He said, hold on. And then everything goes black for her. And then we got a sharp cut to the next scene, very sad. Shang is walking up and down past the medical tent, wondering if Ping, Mulan, is going to survive. Qian Pao, especially Ling, and Yao, they all look so scared, sitting there, like, oh my gosh, is Ping going to die? So then the doctor comes out of the tent, and he ushers Shang over. And he's whispering something to him, and Shang is standing up straight, like, what? I was so confused when I saw this as a kid. And then Mushu has good hearing, apparently. And then he looks at Creaky, his eyes go wide. He realizes what was said. Shang rushes inside the tent, and guess what? Mulan's a girl. Ping is a girl. She sits up, and there, her chest, bandaged. Pretty obvious it's not a man's chest. And then he looks at her in shock, and she covers herself with the blanket, and she says, I can explain. And then Shang looks so disappointed. And Shifu is like, so it's true. And Mulan says, Shang. And then Shang rushes out the tent angry, and Shifu yanks Mulan the tent. He says, I knew there was something wrong with you. A woman. He takes out her hair. The bunny takes out her hair. And after he takes out her hair, he throws her to the ground. He says, treacherous snake. And then everybody looks shocked. Qian Pao, Ling, and Yao. And Mulan says, my name is Mulan. I did it to save my father. And Shifu says, high treason. Mulan said, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Shifu says, ultimate dishonor. And then Mulan says, it was the only way. Please believe me. And Shifu says, Captain. And Shang looks so disappointed. And then he takes Mulan's sword from her horse Khan out of its sheath. And Khan is whinnying because he was like, oh no, you are not about to hurt my owner. And Shifu says, restrain him. So they restrain the horse. And Shang is coming closer towards Mulan with the sword. And then Xianpao, Ying, and Yao are like, no! And Shifu says, you the law. And then they're looking in shock. And then Mulan, Shang ends up in front of Mulan with the sword. And he's glaring at her, death stare. And Mulan looks up at him and then she lowers her head like, well, I'm gonna die. And then he raises the sword in the air. And then he throws it at her feet. And Mulan looks up at him in shock. And he says, a life for a life. My debt is repaid. And then he walks away from her. She lowers her head. And he says, move out. And Shifu said, but you can't just... And he grabs Shifu by the collar and says, I said, move out. So then he lets go of her. And then they're all walking away. The soldiers, very sad. Mulan is left there. After she saved all their lives, she's left there with Khan, Mushu, and Kriki, and she's just sitting there with a blanket over her. And Mushu made a makeshift fireplace. And then he says, this close, getting respect from the ancestors, getting top shelf and entourage. And he says, all my hard work. And he digs into a bag of dumplings, and he eats one, he eats it. He puts it over the fire, and then he says to Mulan, hey. And Mulan says, I never should have left home. And Mushu says, you did it to save your ancestors. You did it to protect your father, whatever. He said, you just gotta let these things go. And he's crying. And I forgot what happened next. I'm trying to remember. Mulan was saying something. I don't know. I forgot what she said next. He said, you just gotta let these things go. And I forgot what Mulan said next. I'm trying to remember. Whatever, I'm gonna move on. And then Mushu, Kriki starts revealing stuff about himself too, and he starts crying. And Mushu says to Kriki, what? You're not lucky? You lied to me? And then Kriki nods crying, and then Mushu looks up at Khan and says, what are you, a sheep? I was laughing so hard. And then Khan growls at him, and then Mushu throws Kriki. And Mulan said that she's ready to go home. And Mushu's like, yeah, this ain't gonna be pretty. He said, but we can do this, or something. And then they're all... I remember he said, at least you did it to yours to protect yourself. I don't know, whatever. And then he, they say it ain't gonna be pretty. He said, he'll get through this. And then Mulan hugs him, and Mushu says, I promise. Off in the distance is Shan Yu's falcon. He's flying over, trying to see if there's any survivors. Out shoots Shan Yu's hand. Like a zombie, out of the snow. And the falcon sees him and flies back towards him. Shan Yu and his henchmen are alive. They emerge from the snow, and they see the Emperor's palace in the distance, and they start walking towards it. Mulan sees this, and she's scared. So she walks over to a horse, and then she's getting ready to go back. And Mushu said, where do you think you're going? She says, I have to stop them. And Mushu said, you see what happened with those Huns? They popped out of the snow, like daisies. And Mulan said, are you going to help me or not? And Kriki is like, let's go. And Mushu said, let's go. What did he say again? Let's go. What did he say? Let's go kick us some honey buns. That was a good one. And then he gets on the horse, and they're all rushing back to the Emperor's palace to protect him, because the Huns are going to attack him and everybody else there. What happens next? I'm trying to remember. They're all rushing towards the Emperor's palace. Let's go kick some honey buns. Oh, I remember now. So now they're having a parade at the Emperor's palace to celebrate the soldiers' arrival. And this guy is leading them in the parade, the soldiers. He says, behold, the heroes of China. So now the soldiers are all coming into the parade, and they look very sad because they just abandoned the girl who saved them all. They look very sad, and Mulan is on her horse, and she's looking for them. She found them. She rushes towards Shang on his horse, And then Shang sees her. He's like, Mulan? And she says, Shang, the Huns have arrived. They're in the city. And Shang says, you don't belong here, Mulan. Go home. So I guess if she's a woman, she's a liar, huh? And Mulan rushes towards him. And she says, Shang, they're here or whatever. She says, you have to trust me. He said, why should I? Like, wow, she looks so angry. And she said, why else would I come back? You said you could trust Ping. How is Mulan any different? Shang looks away and rides past her. And then she looks at Qian Pao, Yao, and Ling and says, keep a close eye or something. And she says, I know they're here. And she goes, yeah, on her horse, and she rides off. And then now she's on foot and she's trying to talk to people, but they're all ignoring her because she's a woman. And she's like, sir, you have to believe me, the emperor's in trouble. And they're all trying to get away from her. And she says to Mushu, nobody will listen. And Mushu's like, huh? Did you say something? She said, Mushu. Mushu said, hey, you're a girl again, remember? Very sad. Very sad. So now, like, Shang approaches the emperor and... oh, I remember, behind him is a dragon parade mascot, and he feels suspicious about it. And then he approaches the emperor, and he says, Your Highness or whatever, he says, the sword of Shan Yu. And the emperor says, I know how much this would mean to you, Captain. Your father would be very proud. He's about to take the sword, then the falcon comes out of nowhere and takes the sword with his feet. And he goes on the roof, and there is Shan Yu crouched like a gargoyle. He grabs the sword, he's looking down at them. And then the dragon parade mascot, out of it rips and a ton of Shan Yu's henchmen come out. And they take the emperor captive and they close the doors. And Shang is pounding on the doors, but it's not opening. And Shan Yu is on the roof laughing at them. So now, Shang and his soldiers have taken a pillar of the emperor's palace and they're trying to use it to budge the door open. And Mulan says they'll never reach the emperor in time. So now she's looking around trying to figure out what to do. They still can't get the door open with the pillar. And Mulan whistles and she says, hey guys, I got an idea. And they all follow, the soldiers follow her. They put it down, follow her. Ling, Yao, and Qianpo. But Shang just looks at her like, ew, girl. I'm kidding. And then they throw their weapons to Mulan and their armor, and she puts it aside. And then the men come out dressed as looked like the matchmaker women that Mulan was just up in the beginning. They had the sashes and the nice, beautiful dresses. And then Mulan comes out, and they all take their sashes from around their waist, and they wrap it around the pillar. That the pillars are still there. And just like the wood post, when they're climbing with the weights, they use their sashes to climb up the pillars. And Shang, last minute, takes off his cape and does the same. And they'll smile at him like, yay, Shang is joining us. So they're all climbing the pillars. And then now the Shan Yu's henchmen are bringing the emperor inside. They all grab him, whatever. And they lead him in front of Shan Yu. And Shan Yu says to his henchmen, guard the doors. So they guard the doors. And then Mulan says, okay, any questions? Because they have a plan ready. And Yao says, does this dress make me look fat? And Mulan goes, she slaps him like, and he goes, ow. So now the guards are outside. And guess what? The falcon is there too. And Mushu, before the falcon has time to screech, Mushu burns it. And loses all of its feathers. And Mushu says, that's what I call Mongolian barbecue. And Kriki is laughing. So now, Qian Pao, Ling, and Yao come out dressed as women. And they come, and the henchmen say concubines, ugly concubines. That was mean. And they're all fanning themselves. And one of the guards waves at them. He has a crush on them. And the other guard elbows him like, are you serious? And then Ling, an apple that's half bitten falls out from his top. And they look at it confused. And Ling fans himself nervously. And Shang puts a hand to his face. And I forgot, after that, that's when Mushu burned the falcon. And then the guard lifts up the apple, trying to hand it back to Ling. But then Ling, Qian Pao, and Yao all have fruits. Yao has bananas, I think, and Qian Pao has watermelons. And Ling has apples. They all take their fruits out and they use it to attack the men. Even Qian Pao, he takes the watermelons and put it on their heads, slams them into each other. Mulan fights the archer, uses his bow to pin him to the ground, and she says to Shang, "Shang, go!" So Shang rushes into the room where the emperor is being held. And Shan Yu was taunting him earlier, saying, "Your walls and enemies have fallen, now it's your turn, bow to me." And now Shan Yu is saying, hold on, Mulan said, "Shang, go." And Shan Yu said, "I'm tired of your arrogance, old man, bow to me." And Emperor says, "No matter how the wind howls, the mountain cannot bow to it." And Shan Yu says, "Then you will kneel in pieces." Before he gets a chance to slash him, the Emperor walks away so coolly. Shang comes in, fights Shan Yu. But they're fighting and fighting and fighting, but it's not looking good for Shang. And Mulan, she's watching. She can see he's not doing well. And then Shan Yu knocks Shang out. Mulan says to Qian Pao, "Grab the emperor." So Qian Pao grabbed the emperor, and then he said, "Sorry, your majesty," and he did a nice bow to him, and then he grabs him and swings down a string meant to hold up the lantern lights. They swing down with the sash or whatever. So that's when Shan Yu knocks Shang out, and Mulan is about to swing down too, and they're telling her to hurry up and come. And then Mulan looks back at Shang, who was unconscious, and Shan Yu is approaching her now. She takes Shan Yu's sword, and then she slashes the string holding the lanterns. So now Shan Yu cannot get to the emperor, that they slid down the string. And he says no. Everybody's cheering, and Shan Yu goes, "Ah!" He takes his sword stuck in the post, and he Shang only has a dagger left. He points at Shan Yu, but Shang knocks it out of his hand. And he points the sword at him and says, "You took away my army." And Mulan throws a shoe at Shan Yu's head and says, "No, I did." Then she pins up her hair into the bun to show who she was. And Shan Yu says, "The soldier from the mountains." Now he has a new target. He drops Shang, and Mulan puts her shoe back on as Shan Yu comes towards the door that she closes. And she's holding against it, hoping he doesn't open that door. He punches through it. And then she runs off. And Mushu's following her, riding on the falcon, who's apparently now their friend. With Creaky, I guess. And Mushu said, "So what's the plan?" And Mulan says, And Mushu goes, "You don't have a plan?" And Mulan said, "Hey, I'm making this up along as I go." And she notices something. A tower full of fireworks and men there working them. And she says to Mushu, and Mushu says, "Way ahead of you. Come on, Creaky." And he takes a kite and flies towards the tower full of fireworks. But now Shan Yu is catching up with Mulan. He's slashing this pillar and that pillar and this pillar and that pillar. And then Mulan grabs onto a pillar. He slashes it and she screams, and she's holding onto it for dear life. It falls through the building and rips a hole in it or whatever. And now she's walking back on the pillar that's on its side now. He's walking towards her. She jumps up and hangs onto the roof. And she's watching the distance to see if Mushu got the fireworks yet. And he lands in the firework tower. And he says to the two men working the fireworks, "Citizens, I need firepower." And they say, "Who are you?" He was like that. And then he says, "Your worst nightmare." The poor men are knocked out of the tower. Or they jumped, I don't know. And Creaky look intimidating too. How cute. He used the kite to like Batman wings. I guess it was a reference to Batman. So then the men go flying out of the tower. So Mulan, now she's on top of the roof and she's trying to get a good view of her next plan. Now Shan Yu somehow launches up, breaks a hole in the roof, and is now coming towards Mulan with his sword. And then Mulan's looking around for anything she might have on her. She only has a fan left. And Shan Yu says, "It looks like you're out of..." What did he say? Ideas. He said, "It looks like you're out of ideas." He puts the sword through her fan. She flips the fan. And the sword is now in her grasp. And she says, "Not quite." And the fan goes flying. She points the sword at his own sword at She points Shan Yu's sword at him. His own sword. And then she says to Mushu, "Ready, Mushu?" He says, I am ready, baby. He has his kite, he rips it, and he has the firework attached to his back, and he says, light me, to Creaky. Shan Yu isn't getting up. He's charging at Mulan, but she don't care. She moves past him and she kicks underneath him. He falls on his back onto the roof. The rocket on Mushu's back is now officially lit, and then he rushes towards them. And Shan Yu wants to get out there, but Mulan pins his own sword into his shirt, tunic, whatever. And now he can't move. Now the rocket's coming at him at full force, and then boom, it knocks him off. The rocket, he's now on it, and it hit him in the stomach, and he's grabbed onto it. And now he's flying off the roof, and Mulan grabbed Mushu and Creaky or whatever, I don't know. And then she says, get off the roof, get off the roof, get off the roof. Shan Yu is screaming. He goes flying into a tower full of the rest of the fireworks and explodes. Obviously, they're not going to show that. It's a kid's movie. And now the fireworks go off. An amazing ending to the war, or whatever that was. And then Mulan goes sliding down the lantern zip line? I don't know. By holding onto her lantern, I think. Well, the fireworks go off in the background, and then Shang is running down the steps, and she lets go of the lantern, and she falls on top of him. And they both sit up, and they see Shan Yu's sword fall in front of them with some smoke. Mushu is skidding down the steps, and he's laughing because they just beat Shan Yu. And Creaky falls towards Mushu with a little flame on his antenna, and Mushu says, you are a lucky bug. He takes the flame out on his antenna after he licked his finger, and everybody's cheering because now it's over. And Chifu is the only one who's upset about all this, of course, so uptight. And he says, that was a deliberate attempt on my life. Where is she? He said, look what a mess. And what happened next? He said, they're all protecting Mulan and Shang Tzu, and Chifu says, get out of the way, that woman is not worth protecting. And Shang says, she's a hero. And Chifu said, tis a woman, she'll never be worth anything. And Shang says, he grabs Chifu's collar and says, listen, you pompous. And then the Emperor says, that is enough. And he's coming as the smoke is being cleared out of his palace. And they're all bowing. And, no, not yet, they're not bowing yet. And Shang is like, your Emperor, your Majesty, I can explain. The Emperor puts a hand out and he pushes it to the side. They all move out of the way to reveal Mulan. She walks towards the Emperor and bows. And after she bows, she's still bowing, and the Emperor says, I've heard a great deal about you, Fa Mulan. You stole your father's armor, ran away from home, impersonated a soldier, deceived your commanding officer, dishonored your family, destroyed my palace, and you have saved us all. Mulan is in shock, and the Emperor bows, and Shifu, he bows, he's like, oh, he bows too, except he's bowing on the floor. And then Shang and the rest of them bow, and Mulan is like, what's going on? Guys, don't bow. And then everybody in the whole palace area is bowing. Even Khan is bowing. And Mushu is so touched. I forgot what he said. I'm trying to remember. Mushu's touched. He said, my baby all grown up and safe in China. He said to Creaky, you got a tissue? And the Emperor said to Chifu, he said, yes, your Majesty or whatever. He said, make sure this woman is a member of my council. And Chifu said, but there are no council positions open, your Majesty. And Chifu says, very well, you could have his job. And Chifu's like, what, mine? And he faints. And Mulan says, with all due respect, your Majesty, what did she say? I've been away from home long enough. That's what it was, I think. And then the Emperor says, then take this. And he puts the medallion from his neck. He puts it around Mulan. He says, then take this. To show that you saved my life, I think. He said, and this. And he gave her Shan Yu's sword. And he said, to show that you are the hero of China. And Mulan is so happy. She hugs him, the Emperor. And Yao said, is she allowed to do that? And the rest of the soldiers and Shang shrug. And then Mulan is happy and she's leaving. And then she gives she gives... Who did she give a hug? I think it was Ling or Yao. And then Qian Pao hugs all of them. He lifts them all up and hugs them. And then as they're leaving, Shang's turn. He approaches Mulan. He says, you fight good. And Mulan is so disappointed. She's like, oh, thank you. And they leave. And he looks like so regretful. He's like, why did I say that? And then Mulan says, Khan, let's go home. And she gets on his back and they ride off and everybody's cheering. And then the Emperor approaches Shang as Mulan left. And he says the Emperor says to Shang, a flower that blooms in adversity is the most beautiful of all. Or more rare of all, I don't know. And then Shang says, sir. And the Emperor says, you don't meet a girl like that every dynasty. He looks so angry at Shang, like, dude, you missed your shot. And then Shang smiles after Mulan. So now we're back home. And now Mulan's father is sitting on the bench where they sat when she was sad. Now he's the one sad. A blossom falls into his hand and he's holding it. And Mulan is home. She's approaching him, holding Shan Yu's sword. And the father's shocked to see her. He stands up, he goes, Mulan. And she kneels in front of him and says, Father, I have brought you the sword of Shan Yu. And he holds it. And she says, and the crest of the emperor. And she puts it on top. And she says, they're gifts to honor the Fa family. And then the father throws them to the side. And then he hugs Mulan and says, the greatest gift and honor is having you for a daughter. And he says, I miss you so. And she says, I missed you too, Baba. And they're hugging. It's so cute. And the mom is so touched. And the grandma's next to her. The grandma says, a sword. She should have brought home a man. And Shang says, excuse me, does Fa Mulan live here? And the mom and the girl point at them. And then Shang is like, thank you. And grandma said, woo, sign me up for the next war. So then Shang approaches them. He sees, he said, Honorable Faju. He sees Mulan. He says, Mulan, you forgot your helmet. It's actually your helmet, isn't it? And then the father's like, can you go talk to him? And Mulan walks to him and says, would you like to stay for dinner? And the grandma says, would you like to stay forever? And then Mulan shakes her head, and Shang is like, dinner would be great. And now, the oldest ancestor, he's watching him, he's so happy. And Mushu appears next to me and says, come on, who did a good job? Tell me who did a good job. And the older ancestor says, oh, all right. You can be a guardian again. And Mushu goes, ah! He's so happy. Then Creaky hits the gong and all the ancestors awaken. And then Mushu says, hit it, Creaky. And then Creaky's hitting the drums. And they're all dancing, the ancestors. And one of the uptight ancestors says, they get this from my side of the family. And they're all dancing and partying, and Mushu says, call out for egg rolls. And the leader ancestor looks so upset and annoyed. And he says, guardians. So Mushu goes flying out of the ancestor place where they pray. And he flips one of the steps. He's having a good time. And Mulan approaches him and says, thank you, Mushu. She kisses his forehead and he smiles at her. And then the chickens rush out of the ancestor's place. And then Mulan is smiling at them. And then Mulan's dog, little brother, rushes out and chases after the chickens. And she looks shocked. And the leader ancestor says, Mushu! And Mulan looks shocked, like she actually heard the ancestors. I'm upset they didn't do anything with that. After that, the credits! Woo! I'm done. I can't believe I talked for over 2 hours nonstop. Alright, so that was my entire recollection of Mulan from complete memory. Woo! That was fun. So yep, that's Mulan. My favorite Disney movie of all time. I know it from top to bottom. And that's my entire recollection. If you guys want me to do anything like this anymore, let me know, because I have a few more memories. I have a few more movies ingrained into my memory, like Anastasia. I love Anastasia. I'm trying to think about what Pokemon movie I have in my mind. I can't really do Pokemon the first movie. Could I? I have Anastasia in my mind. I watched Coraline recently. I watched Coraline a million times ever since it came out, but I don't think that should count since I watched it. So, I watched it recently, so I don't think that should count. I have Anastasia in my mind. I'm trying to think. I could do Lion King, but not entirely accurately like this. Mulan, my favorite. But anyways, thank you guys so much for coming. I've always wanted to try something like that, so it was fun. Thank you. God bless you all and have a great night.